This week is exam number 2. I wanted to help you review a little bit, and we'll do that by going over the 4 business structures. First of all, pure competition. And we recognize that in terms of pure competition, are many, many sellers. There is a product that is homogeneous or a standardized product. It has no market power. It has to take the price that's given to it by the market. And there are very low barriers to entry. As a result of this, pure competition has some unique characteristics. Let's talk about those a little bit. First of all, on the left-hand side, we see that, first of all, we have the industry. And in terms of the industry, it is the regular supply and demand curve. And in terms of, the industry is different than the firm. Excuse me, I'm trying to find my marker here so I can point things out as we move along here. Thank you. So over here, we have the industry, supply and demand curve. And then we have the firm, and we see that the firm graph or picture is different than the industry. That's a very important thing to recognize. But all of the firms make up the industry. The firm has a demand curve that is exactly flat, and that demand curve has some unique characteristics. The demand curve is equal to price. It's also equal to marginal revenue, and it's also equal to average revenue. And we want to recognize the difference between the short run and the long run. Now we need to talk about the cost curves that we talked about. I believe it was in chapter, I'm not sure. It was in the week after the exam. So it would have been week 7. But that's when we talked about the cost curves. And so the important curves that are going to be a part of these, looking at these business structures, is going to be the marginal cost curve, which looks like the Nike swoosh, the average total cost curve, which looks like a bowl. And we recognize that the marginal cost curve will intersect the average total cost curve at its minimum. Now, we want to recognize what is the profit maximizing level of output. So that level of output, profit maximizing, is where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. And that applies to all of the business structures. All of the businesses will maximize profit where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. So in pure competition for the firm, where marginal revenue equals marginal cost, that is at this point right here, I will drop down a vertical line down to the horizontal axis, and that will give me the profit maximizing level of output. Now I take a look here and I see that price at that profit maximizing level of output is greater than average total cost. What that tells me is that this firm in pure competition is earning economic profit. As a result of earning economic profit, and because of the characteristics of pure competition, which we said there's many sellers, it's a standardized product, there's no market power, there are low barriers to entry. So as a result of that, more firms will enter the industry. And look what happens as more firms enter the industry. As more firms enter the industry, price goes down. And look what happens to that economic profit. That economic profit will start to disappear. So in the long run, we have some equalities that are very important. In the long run, in pure competition, price equals marginal cost. Price equals the average total cost at its minimum. And in the long run, there is zero economic profit. Is that good for us as consumers? Absolutely, because we're always getting the things that we want. And so getting the things that we want, price equals marginal cost, means that we have allocative efficiency. Price equals marginal cost means allocative efficiency. Price equals the minimum of average total cost means that we're getting productive efficiency. Price equals the minimum of average total cost equals productive efficiency. Now, this is unique in pure competition. And this these are important because what we're trying to study in terms of economics is a way to allocate scarce resources. That's what the study of economics is. And we recognize that this idea of competition meets those standards of efficiency in terms of allocative efficiency and productive efficiency. Now, as we look at other business structures, as we look at monopolistic competition, oligopoly, and monopoly, we see that these equalities are not there. And so we say that anything other than pure competition is not going to meet those standards in terms of allocative efficiency and productive efficiency. Now, we do not have pure competition in reality in the marketplace. It's basically a model. Where we buy our products is basically in between pure competition and monopoly. That's where the majority of our products are. So we buy from the market structures of monopolistic competition and oligopoly. So next, let's talk about monopolistic competition. In monopolistic competition, we recognize that things are different than in the firm because we recognize that the demand curve is downward sloping to the right. We also recognize that the marginal revenue curve is below the demand curve because we have to sell all those additional units at a lower price. Monopolistic competition, they have a little bit of market power. So in terms of, they have a little bit of market power more than in pure competition, and they still have a relatively standardized product, but they try to differentiate their product either through design or through advertising. So they have product differentiation, which gives them a little bit of market power, but there's still many substitutes for their product, and there still are relatively low barriers to entry. The profit maximizing rule still applies. It's going to be where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. We have a vertical line that goes down to the horizontal curve that gives us our profit maximizing level of output. And we take that up, we take that demand curve up to here, and that gives us the price for monopolistic competition. Now, we recognize the same thing happens. In the short run, we say that there is profit because price is above average total cost. So we have a profit recognized, so they're earning economic profit. Now, in the long run, because of those low barriers to entry, because it's a differentiated product, so there's still substitutes, and because there's still many sellers, what will happen is that more sellers will come into the marketplace. The price for each firm in monopolistic competition is going to be lowered. So in the long run, what happens is our graph is going to look like this. So this is the long run for monopolistic competition. This is what our graph looks like. And what happens is, and this is important, is that the average total cost curve is tangent at that price level where we are maximizing our profit. So in the long run, what will happen in terms of monopolistic competition is that we will have a price that is above marginal cost. If price were at marginal cost, that's what it would be if we had pure competition, and price is above the minimum of average total cost. So what we say is that in monopolistic competition, we have neither allocative efficiency or productive efficiency, but it's still fairly close to what we would have if we had pure competition. And we also recognize that all of the economic profit is squeezed out as well. And we recognize that even though all of the economic profit is squeezed out, we recognize that we do have accounting profit. All right, next, let's take a look at monopoly. So monopoly, in terms of what we have with monopoly, is that we have one seller, we have a unique product, we have high barriers to entry, and they have market power. They set their own price, but recognize that, take a look at their demand curve. Their demand curve is still downward sloping, and the marginal revenue curve is still below the demand curve. And the profit maximizing rule still applies. It's going to be where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. And so we're going to take that right down to take that vertical line down to the horizontal axis. That gives our profit maximizing level of output. And then that price is the price that a monopolist gets. They set that price and recognize that if they want to sell more product, they're going to have to lower their price. And they can still, if they raise their price, they're only going to be able to do that if they can basically price discriminate, meaning that they can find buyers who are willing to pay that higher price by offering them certain discounts or whatever else they have to offer them in terms of price discrimination, so that they can still move up the demand curve. However, recognize that the profit maximizing level of output is where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. And recognize that in the demand, and this is in monopoly, this is both the short run and the long run, and recognize that there's nothing that says that more firms are going to come into the marketplace because it's a monopoly. And so we recognize again that price is above marginal cost, price is above the minimum of average total cost. And so we say that it is neither allocative efficient or productive efficient. And we say that economic profit is greater than zero. The last one that we want to take a look at is oligopoly. And oligopoly would basically look like monopolistic competition, except that in oligopoly, lots of times we look at two monopolists or two oligopolists to show that basically they are interdependent upon each other. That interdependency created game theory, which is a part of what we learned in the last chapter. But recognize that we sometimes refer to a kink demand curve in terms of oligopoly, and that is because they copy each other. So if we had two demand curves in terms of oligopoly, we would say that buyers would first buy from company B, until company A intersects company B, and then they'll buy from company A because the price is lower after A intersects B. So that's why we refer to a kink demand curve. And we recognize that in oligopoly, the products are still differentiated, but they're very interdependent. That interdependent is based upon the fact that in oligopoly, you have 3 or 4 firms that have the majority of the market share being 60 to 70% of the market. Okay, I hope this review helped. What I'd like you to do, if you have other things that you would like me to present in terms of a video, let me know, and I'll be happy to create that before the exam. And hopefully we can get those created either today or Tuesday or Wednesday to help you to prepare for the exam. Okay, thanks a lot.